This is a completely different type of lens than most people have used or seen before. And that's not because it is not a great lens. It's because lenses like this used to cost $1,000 plus. And this is one of the first budget versions of this style of lens. Now, this is called a tilt lens, and it's called that because you can actually tilt the barrel of the lens. But I think that doesn't do it justice because it is a tilt swivel lens. So you can see it can swivel and tilt. And this gives you a number of practical advantages over standard lenses. It also gives you a lot of fun creative options when composing your images. I'll put some links in the description down below to the best pricing I could find on the lens, as well as the list of currently available lens mounts. In full disclosure, this lens was sent out to me at no cost to myself, but this is not a paid or sponsored video, and TTArtisan had no say in the making of the video. And the way this lens works, if you just take a photo or a video and you leave the lens in the neutral position, so it's straight just like a normal lens, and it's not tilted left or right, what you're gonna find is when it takes a photo like any other normal lens. And we've got the sensor lined up here, and we've got the lens lined up here, and then our plane of focus is perfectly even, just like this. But if we tilt the lens like this, our plane of focus shifts as well. Now, this doesn't allow us to see to the side or look around corners or anything like that. But what it does is it changes the plane of focus in a way that has two key advantages over normal lenses. And it allows you to do a couple of unique things. Using it one way, you can create a slice of focus, and using it another way, you can create what is called a deep focus. And these are each used for two different things. The slice of focus is more of a creative thing, and the deep focus is more of a practical thing. First, I'll talk about the slice of focus. The slice of focus allows you to just tilt the lens one way or the other. And now you can take a portion of your image, maybe the middle of the image or 1/3 to the side of image, and by tilting the lens, you will create this extremely shallow depth of field where you just have this slice of focus area that's in focus. And then to the left of it, it's out of focus before the plane of focus. And to the right of it, it's out of focus beyond the plane of focus. So you've taken a person, you've twisted the plane of focus like this. Now I'm in focus, and that's out of focus, and that's out of focus. And this lens is so extreme that when used at its maximum aperture and its maximum tilt, you can actually take a picture of a person and their entire face won't even be in focus. The slice of focus is so thin, it won't even cover their whole face. So you can use this effect in the extreme by pushing the lens all the way in one direction, but you can also just do it part way if you don't need such a shallow depth of field or a thin slice of focus. And often when we use the lens like this, we get an image that has what they call the toy miniature effect, and it looks like something that is on a train board or something that you would see that was like miniature, like Lego people or something like that. And the reason we get this effect is because our brains know that we can't get that shallow depth of field or that shallow focus when taking a picture of something full size in real life. The only time we see this crazy shallow depth of field is when we have a lens and we're very close to something that's very small. That allows us to create this very shallow depth of field. So that's why our brains process the big wide world used with a lens like this, and we say, hey, that looks like a toy miniature effect or something that's on a train board. And this effect can be used either horizontally or vertically. So we've got the lens set up like this, and now we have a vertical shallow depth of field. But if we twist the lens like this, now we have a horizontal shallow depth of field. In fact, you can even cut across the frame and have a diagonal shallow depth of field as well if you want. The other way you can use the tilt function on this lens, and what is considered a more practical way to use the lens, is you tilt the lens to create a deeper depth of field. Effectively, you change the focus plane to match what you're taking a photo of. And you see this in product photography all the time. You also see this in landscape photography. And an example might be, I've got this Boya microphone, this Boya wireless microphone here, and I could take a photo of it with the camera, and I could get that Boya all in focus. And we see that I have the microphone and the plane of focus of the camera lined up. But say that I want a more interesting composition, which involves me tilting this or changing the plane that the actual Boya is on. Now, if I take this photo now, what you might find is the bee might be in focus, but the rest of the Boya is out of focus, which is not what we want for product photography. But we can fix this just by shifting the lens and taking a photo like this. And I'll throw a couple of examples on screen now, and you'll see the first one, I take the photo in the standard position. I haven't moved the microphone at all. You'll see the Bia Boya is in focus and the rest of it slowly tails out of focus. And then I shift the lens and more or less the entire Boya logo is now in focus. You will also find this useful for landscape. When you're up high and you've got the landscape going away from you, you can tilt the lens down and that will shift that plane of focus so it more evenly follows that depth of field or the way the landscape is moving away from you. Using the lens in this way is also very popular for food photography. And you'll see in the first image, we have a shallow depth of field and the whole plate is not in focus. But then when we tilt the lens, we get a deeper depth of field, everything's in focus. And this is more in line with the way we would want food photography to look. So those are a couple of practical use cases for the tilt function on the lens. But the great thing is you don't have to do one or the other. It is a fun, frivolous, slice of focus, toy miniature type lens that you can just use in a very creative way. But it's also a lens that you can use for product photography, landscape, even architecture, a range of uses where it has very practical use and you don't have a very stylized image at all. You just have an image that looks very good because you've got a very deep depth of field and you've got a whole bunch of stuff in focus in that image that you couldn't without the tilt function on this lens. Just having a look at the build quality on the lens, it is a manual focus, manual aperture lens, and the entire thing is made of metal. It has a polished metal lens mount, and it actually really is nice to use. It has these two little knobs. One of them is going to control the tilt. That is going to allow you to lock that tilt in. When you switch it to the different positions, in the center position, it's got a little click and it clicks in, and at the two extreme positions, it also clicks in. It really does have a nice, satisfying feeling. Now you tighten that up, and you loosen this up, and this gives you control of the twist. Now, one thing you have to watch is when you are focusing, changing the aperture, or even putting it on the camera, you have to lock the twist function, because otherwise, while you're focusing, instead of focusing, the lens will be twisting, changing the aperture, or you won't even be able to put it on the camera and lock it on the lens mount, because you go to put it on, and the whole thing moves. But the functionality of both the focus, the aperture, the twist, and the tilt, it just feels really nice and smooth. It is well dampened, and it feels like a much more expensive lens than the price point would indicate. It also has some markings on it so you can see what degrees you're at. So if you want to be at 0 degrees with the lens square, you don't have to guess. You've got an actual number there that tells you. Or if you want to be at 90 degrees, you just turn at 90 degrees. So you're not going to have to guess where you're at. You're not going to get some slightly out or wonky images. Most of the time, you're either going to use it at 90 or 0. Just looking at the image quality and starting with distortion, there really isn't much to worry about, and I haven't corrected any of these images. This is just how they came straight out of camera. There really isn't any barrel or pin cushion distortion to speak of, and even when you get lines close to the edge of frame, I find that they are reasonably straight. Looking at vignetting, you have significantly heavy vignetting at f1.4. It does decrease quite significantly as you get to f2, and it's mostly gone by f2.8. F4, F5.6, and F8 are perfectly clean. I don't mind a bit of vignetting, and I think if you're shooting at F1.4 and you've got some vignetting and you've got the shallow depth of field, I think it actually helps you create a really cool looking creative image. So I do like the fact that it has heavy vignetting at f1.4, but if you stop it down and you want a cleaner image with brighter corners, you can do that and you're not going to have any problems. The chromatic aberration performance on the lenses is good without being great. You have a modest amount of color fringing at f1.4. This improves by f2, and by f2.8, it's pretty well gone, and it stays completely clean all the way down to f8. I've definitely seen worse performances than this, and I don't think it has any meaningful impact on most real-world images. Looking at longitudinal chromatic aberration, which is a change in color cast in the out of focus areas before and after the plane of focus, you will find it's definitely there starting from f1.4. By the time you get to f4, it's pretty well gone. But for a lens of this type and the way that I was using it, in my real world images, it caused me no problems whatsoever. It was really only noticeable when I was shooting it on a test chart. So for this type of lens and at this budget, I really wouldn't worry about the Loca. The flare performance is going to be very similar to the chromatic aberration performance, and that is at f1.4 and f2, you get these crazy rainbow flares, and sometimes you get the image significantly desaturating, but this is kind of a cool creative look. And they're currently shooting movies with cinema lenses, old vintage cinema lenses that look almost exactly like this. So I think this is very much a personal preference. You can use those flares creatively, but if you don't want that sort of flare and you want a more clinical performance, you just stop it down to f2.8 and f4, and the flares pretty well go away, and it looks much more like a modern lens. So even though the flare performance is pretty extreme wide open, use it creatively or just stop it down and don't worry about the flare. Close-up image quality is very good. I wish the minimum focus distance was a little bit closer because it's only 35 centimeters, which is okay, but not great. And with a tilt lens like this, it would be kind of fun to be able to get a little bit closer. But when you do get to the minimum focus distance, the images are very sharp and very good, particularly if you stop it down to f2.8 and beyond. But I think the lens is still usable at minimum focus distance, even at f1.4. Having a look at sharpness, and when we shoot it on the test charts, I want to say that this lens is not what I would call a test chart hero. And I think it performs better in real world results than it does on a test chart. And it's important to understand that when you're shooting a black and white test chart, white is a reflection of all colors. Black is the absorption of all colors. And you get a very different result shooting a black and white image than you do real world color images because they reflect different colors. So in real world results, I think this lens is perfectly usable at f1.4 and f2. On the test charts at f1.4, you do have some amount of detail, but it is slightly lower contrast, and the image is affected by that chromatic aberration. At f2, this improves reasonably significantly, and I shot, I would say, most of the images you've seen in this video at f2, but on the test chart, you would say, hey, that's still imperfect. But in real-world results, f2 is absolutely fine. Once you get to f2.8 and beyond, it is very good, and as good as most modern clinical lenses. It's very sharp in the center of frame, and f4, f5.6, and f8 are also very, very sharp, and they get very sharp all the way to the corners as you stop the lens down. The bokeh and out of focus areas were smooth and pleasing, and even when tilted to the extreme, you got really nice and interesting and creamy out of focus areas. Some of the bokeh balls, as you got to the edge of frame, if you were tilting the lens, would take on a slightly unusual shape, and I think that has to do with the physical dimensions of the lens being tilted. But overall, I thought the background blur was great, and when you do get that shallow depth of field with that sliver of focus, I think it really does form a nice backdrop for whatever is in focus in the frame, and I don't think it's distracting or busy at all. This is a super cool, fun, affordable lens. I think if you're interested in playing with the tilt function of a lens like this, you really can't do it any cheaper than this. And it is a beautifully well-built lens, and shot from f2.8, it's as sharp as most modern lenses out there. Once again, I'll put some links in the description down below to the best pricing I could find on the lens and all the available lens mounts. And if you're on a budget and interested in APS-C lenses, I've just thrown a video on screen now. That video covers 36 really cheap APS-C lenses. Some of them as cheap as $30 or $40, and most of the lenses in that video are well under $200.